I welcome the opportunity to support the motion before us to renew the provisions of the Offences Against the State Act 1998 and Section 8 of the Criminal Justice Act 2009 for a further 12 months. These are exceptional measures, but are also necessary measures designed not to restrict freedoms, but to protect lives. The core purpose of this legislation is to give An Garda Síochána and the justice system the tools necessary to deal with the persistent and evolving threat. The threat of terrorism and the threat posed by highly organised, well-resourced and often ruthless criminal gangs. Let's be clear about the context in which this legislation was born. The Offence Against the State Act Amendment Act 1998 was enacted in the aftermath of one of the darkest days in our recent history, the Omagh bombing, which claimed 31 innocent lives, including 2 unborn twins, and injured hundreds more. Thank you. There was the speaking slot came a lot quicker. Thank you. Thank you very much. Cormac Devlin. The atrocity was a grim reminder that the peace is hard won and that the work of protecting the peace is never finished. This legislation remains necessary in 2025 because, regrettably, the threat has not vanished. While we have made significant progress in reducing paramilitary activity on this island, dissident groups remain alive. The threat level in Northern Ireland is currently substantial. That means an attack is likely. These groups continue to target members of the security forces, and they do with intent and capability. But this legislation is not solely about dissident republicanism. It is also about a critical pillar in our response to the ongoing and deeply coercive influence of organised crime. Section 8 of the Criminal Justice Amendment Act 2009, also being considered today, was introduced to address the serious risk posed by criminal gangs. These gangs are not petty criminals. They are transnational operations engaged in trafficking of drugs and firearms, in kidnapping, extortion, robbery and murder. They are sophisticated, well-resourced and utterly ruthless. These organisations operate in the shadows and their powers lie in intimidation. They terrorise communities and they bribe or threaten witnesses. And crucially, they seek to undermine the very justice system that stands against them. This is why Section 8 is so important. I've spoken about this before in this House, and so that's why I felt it's important to speak again today. Section 8 also allows for certain trials to be held in the Special Criminal Court where there's no jury, eliminating the risk of jury intimidation and ensuring that the justice can be done and can be seen to be done. These powers are not taken lightly. Non-jury trials are, by their very nature, exceptional. They should be used sparingly and they must be subject to review. That is why each year we come before the House to seek democratic approval for their continuance. This is why we welcome the work of the Independent Review Group and the Minister's commitment to implementing its recommendations in a careful and considered manner. Indeed, the Review Group has called for the eventual repeal and replacement of the Offences Against the State Act with a new framework that retains necessary protections while strengthening oversight and transparency. My own party, Fianna Fáil, welcomes that direction of travel, but reforms take time. In the meantime, the threat is real and we must act accordingly. Let me say a word here about the reality on the ground. From June 2024 to May 2025, An Garda Síochána have carried out dozens of intelligence-led operations targeting both subversive activity and organised crime. These are not theoretical threats, Minister. These are live investigations. They involve arrests, seizures of firearms, explosives, and the prevention of planned acts of violence. The reports laid before the House outline the extent to which these provisions are being used and challenges they are designed to address. The Gardaí face a dangerous and evolving enemy. We owe it to them and to the public that they serve that they are not fighting with one hand behind their backs. We also know the nature of the threat is changing. Violent extremism, radicalisation and the international terrorism do not respect borders, and Ireland is not immune from this. Whether from lone actors radicalised online or groups acting under ideological banners, the threat of political motivation violence remains. And while we have seen and spared the worst of such attacks in recent years, the risks have not gone away, and complacency is no option. It's sometimes argued that the ordinary courts should be sufficient for all cases. They may be desirable aspiration in theory, but in practice we know that in some trials, particularly those involving organised crime, intimidation of jurors and witnesses is not just a possibility, it's a probability. I welcome the Minister's commitment to increasing Garda numbers and the number of prison spaces. However, we're now seeing young people who've been charged with serious offences being released on bail on a regular basis, as there are not sufficient places available in the Youth Justice Services facility at Oireachtas. Many of these individuals are going on to commit what we can only be described as crime sprees. This is completely unacceptable. Clearly, there are issues in Oireachtas. Staff are facing a very significant challenge and risk, and our thoughts are with the staff working at Oireachtas, particularly those injured recently. It may be that the service needs to be returned from the management of the Department of Children under the auspices of the Department of Justice. However, it certainly needed to be expanded to ensure that there are sufficient places to allow judges remand and sentence individuals when appropriately and necessary, which of course is always a last resort. And of course, it goes without saying, we will all be pressing for additional resources to be provided for such young people in Budget 2026, as has been the hallmark of this government. And to the Count Corla, this is a motion not just giving the state carte blanche powers, it's about recognising the world it is not as we wish it to be. It's about equipping our justice system to deal with the threats that are real, present and indeed persistent. It's about ensuring that the criminals do not succeed in intimidating our courts, our communities and indeed our country. In the face of intimidation, the state must be resolute. In the face of violence, the state must uphold the rule of law. And in the face of those who seek to do harm, the state must stand on the side of its citizens. This is what this legislation does, and this is why I support its renewal. Cormac Devlin, Count Corla.
And as there are no other members